NC State is headed down to Atlanta to do a little beekeeping. Do they have what it takes to contain the Yellow Jackets?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Wednesday sponsor is FanDuel. Start the season in the NFL with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place just $5 and get $150 back if that first bet wins. Place your first $5 bet and get that $150 back in bonus bets only on FanDuel.com today. Happy Wednesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, today we are getting into the details of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. It is a Thursday night kickoff for NC State this week. We're coming out of our second bye in desperate need of a sixth win to become bowl eligible. Georgia Tech is already bowl eligible, but they've been having a little bit of an up and down year themselves. But Kenton, before we get into anything else, when you think of Georgia Tech football in 2024, what comes to mind?
Well, I think that they're physical. I think that they're extremely physical. I think of a team that on both sides of the ball, even if you win that game, it's a lot like those old Mississippi State teams used to be. They're going to beat you up. It's going to be, you're going to walk away from that game knowing you played a football game, okay? You got to bring your big boy britches on both sides of the ball, or else you will get ran up out the stadium. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'll tell you what, this is a team that, some people say they're up, they're down, they're all over the place. I disagree. I really and truly think that this Georgia Tech team has achieved what they should have for the most part. I mean, if you look at their games, you lose two where you don't have your starting quarterback. When your starting quarterback comes back, he's only available in a running capacity by and large, and you take down one of the top 5 teams in the nation. If you take away their 2 losses, this is what, a 7-3 team, or
They'd be 8-2.
They'd be 8-2. I think that that's about what this team could be, or what they should be, if it weren't for a couple injuries here, maybe 7-3. But I think that this is a good physical team. It reminds me a lot of what was former Wisconsin, current Illinois coach Britt Bielema used to say. Teams, when they play Wisconsin, say, we had a physical week of practice. We had a physical week. We were so physical this week in practice. We have been physical since before the season started, and you're trying to match it in a week? Good luck, Buttercup. And that's really what I look at this Georgia Tech team as. They're a physical team that's they're going to leave some lumps and bruises on you. And if you think being physical for a week is enough for them, hopefully you're right. Good luck, I guess.
Yeah, they are extremely physical, and they are extremely fast. Now, they have a 6-4 record. I kind of said this in the beginning of the season. I think this team is a lot better than folks give them credit for. And in fact, I think they're better than what their schedule would tell you. And like Kenton was talking about there, if you do have a healthy Haynes King for this entire season, perhaps they are sitting at 8-2 right here. It's certainly not for lack of ability. Like Kenton was talking about there, they're going to make you feel the effects of a 4-quarter football game. It's a very good team, and they're flying under the radar here in 2024. Getting into their results so far, they started off the season in week 0, in which we thought was a good win at the time. Not so much anymore. They knocked off Florida State out in Dublin, Ireland, 24-21. They beat Georgia State 35-12, lost on the road to Syracuse 31-28. They beat VMI by a lot of points, 59-7. Lost at Louisville 31-19. They beat Duke 24-14. They beat the Dirty Foot Club in Chapel Hill on a last-second touchdown. That was a favorite of mine in particular, 41-34. Lost that game to Notre Dame 31-13, but note that was without Haynes King. Also lost on the road to Virginia Tech 21-6 without Haynes King. They get Haynes King back in limited capacity, and their biggest win of the season came against the Miami Hurricanes 28-23. So like I was telling you there, I do think they are better than a 6-4 record, because I think if they have a healthy Haynes King, they for sure, in my mind, they beat Virginia Tech. I don't know if they would still beat Notre Dame, because Notre Dame's defense is very good, but this team is very much capable of playing with the top talent in the country. Something to note about the win over Miami, Miami, for the entire season, has had the top offense in the entire country. Georgia Tech holds them to just 23 points. That is nothing short of outstanding. Brent Key, in just his second full season at the helm of Georgia Tech, he has these boys buzzing, pun intended.
About the record thing, and I want to touch on that for a second, Grayson, because you're absolutely spot on there. But I want to give everybody a reflection of how good this team is in terms of when everybody's healthy and rolling. You talk about their 2 losses on the season that came later in terms of the 2 losses before the Miami game to Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. I believe that they have a great shot, not good, great shot at beating Notre Dame in that game. Because in those 2 games, they put up a total of 19 points, 13 against Notre Dame, 6 against Virginia Tech. Do you know how much their offense is averaging with Haynes King against only Power 5 teams, against only Power 4 teams, rather, only Power 4 teams? Do you know how much they're averaging?
I know the number for the entire season, so that's probably going to be lower without Haynes King. I'd say with it's somewhere in the 30s.
With them is somewhere in the 30s. With them is 27.2 points per game.
Okay, pretty close.
So you were very close. So with him, and I know some people are going to say, well, what did they do against really good defenses? Y'all think Duke is a good defense? They put up 24 points against them. This team is a lot better with a healthy Haynes King than without. So again, when Grace and I are saying this team is better than their record shows, if you put up 28 points when the other team scores 21, guess what you do? You win. That Notre Dame game, as much as people talk about Notre Dame as though they're one of the best teams in the nation this year, I don't know who their best win is. Is it Navy?
I can tell you who their worst loss is.
But you get the point. You get the point. So this Georgia Tech team, they seriously are a much better team than their record implies. And I know that phrase is wildly overused. However, when you are missing the most important player at the most important position in the sport, I think we can kind of adjust and understand that things get a little wonky there.
To Kenton's point, Georgia Tech's scoring offense is 11th best in the ACC, 27.7 points per game. Their defense is actually second in the ACC, allowing just 21.9 points per game. So, like I told you, they're a very balanced team, and they can play with absolutely anyone. I would have loved to see Georgia Tech play Notre Dame with a healthy Haynes. It probably would have been a lot closer than 31-13. In fact, Georgia Tech might have just taken them all the way down to the wire. Last point, and this is completely irrelevant to everything else we're going to talk about in this episode. When I play College Football 25, hand up, Georgia Tech is actually my favorite team to play with because they have such elite speed. They have a very fun playbook on the game. I'm sure maybe that translates to real life, but they're such a fun team to play with and such a fun team to actually watch in real life. There's something to that. I know Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame said there actually is weirdly things that you can take from the video game into real life. NC State better come prepared on Thursday night or else they're going to get stung. Coming up next, we're going to get into the details of the Georgia Tech offense. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Wednesday sponsor is Mint Mobile. I'll give it to you straight. I love a great deal just as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy, no hoops, no BS. And so when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for just $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. To get started, head on over to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. There you'll see that right now a 3-month plan is just $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, head on over to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com. Middle portion of our Wednesday show, now diving into the details of the Georgia Tech offense. Of course, you've already heard us talk about quarterback Haynes King. He is the engine that really makes this thing go. Georgia Tech's passing offense is 13th in the ACC, so not really impressive there. Just 230 yards per game. Their rushing attack, on the other hand, ranks 3rd in the ACC, 186 yards per game. So Haynes King, he's not exactly a deep field threat, and especially with the fact that he's really playing with one shoulder. He's playing with just one usable shoulder against top-ranked Miami, and they were able to pull off the upset. That speaks to the toughness and the grit of Haynes King. He didn't need 2 shoulders. In fact, I think he only ended up throwing 6 passes. If you go back and watch that game, I thought Georgia Tech did a tremendous job scheming to the fact that Haynes King is not going to be able to stretch the field. Anytime he did throw the ball, they rolled him out of the pocket and he just had to flick it for 5 yards. That's all they had to get out of him. And then boom, they're 25 yards down the field. So Haynes King, not just his ability to improvise, but using his legs in this game, no secret here, NC State's going to have their hands. We've had countless struggles trying to contain mobile quarterbacks. Haynes King is probably the best mobile quarterback that we will see the entire season. Although he only has 1,600 passing yards, he does have nearly 450 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. When he doesn't exactly attack you through the air, he can absolutely beat you on the ground.
With all due respect, Grayson, I think he matters a little bit more than whether or not somebody is wearing Haynes underwear. The real Haynes to talk about in this game is Jamal Haynes. That young man is – he and that offensive line are extremely physical. They say he's 5'9", 190. 5'9" with Timberlands on, maybe, but he's every bit of 190. That young man is a brick house in a very compact packaging. He's a lot like, I would compare him to a poor man's version of a guy that's blown up all around the nation and Boise State running back Ashton Jonty. He has that breakaway speed. He has the ability to break tackles. He can do it on the outside, getting to the edge, out running guys. He can do it on the inside, running guys over. And I mean this very genuinely. I'm not exaggerating at all when I say this. The Loganville, Georgia product would be at Bama, at Georgia, at Tennessee, he would be at Michigan, Ohio State, somewhere like that if he was 3 inches taller. I am not kidding at all when I say that. This young man can do it all. Just as an example of how much he can do. Grayson and I talked a lot about Haynes King being injured in the last game. Do you know who didn't play past, I believe it was the first quarter in this game? Jamal Haynes. And do you know how many rushing yards he had, Grayson? Or actually, do you know how many carries he had last game? 3. Do you know how many yards he had on those 3 carries?
It's something explosive because I've seen the highlights. Probably something in the 70s, I'd guess.
83 yards on those 3 carries. And I know what a lot of people are going to say. It was probably like an 80-yard run and everything. No. The run that was really long that Grayson is talking about, 65 yards. So what does that mean? On the other 2 carries, he had how many yards, Grayson? 18. He averaged 9 yards per carry, and he was hurt. That young man in that offensive line, there's a reason that both Haynes King and Jamal Haynes look good running the ball. Those buffet busters bust a lot more than buffets, if you catch my drift, okay? They are a physical group up front. I am envious, and I'm sorry. I don't care who doesn't like it. I don't care who gets upset at this. I am envious of having an offensive line that week in and week out is going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be there. Are they perfect? No. Are they perfect in pass pro? Absolutely not. But when them boys are moving forward, they are road graders. They are destroying guys when you are talking about running the ball this season. So, with all due respect, Haynes King is important. He's important. Stopping him is important. But I'll tell you what, that Jamal Haynes, stopping him is equally, if not more important, because I believe they're coming off a bye week after beating Miami.
They are.
Yeah. He's I'm hoping he doesn't have a John Wick moment where he's standing in the end zone saying, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. I hope that doesn't happen.
I think Jamal Haynes is actually the best running back in the country that nobody knows about. And in fact, NC State should probably prepare for this game like they're going to face Ashton Genty. That's how good Jamal Haynes is. Like, truly, in every sense of the imagination, he is actually that good. He has elite speed, elite field vision, elite strength for a guy his size. Again, keep in mind, he's just 5'9", 190. He runs like he's 6'2", 225. Exactly. He is dangerous. And so for NC State, you've had a lot of troubles containing the run this year. This is your biggest test to date. Because like I mentioned, with Haynes King, we don't exactly know the health of his shoulder, but I would venture to guess it's going to be less than 100%. Being that he's had a week to heal it since Miami, I'd have to imagine it's a little better now than it was then, but I don't anticipate that Haynes King is going to be completely airing out the field. Now, they do have backup quarterback Aaron Philo that they do bring in for like third and long situations. I don't really know what to make of that other than it's going to be a pass. So Haynes King, he's dangerous. The most dangerous is Jamal Haynes. However, I also want to talk about something else that you mentioned, Kenton. The Georgia Tech offensive line, believe it or not, is one of the best in the entire country. Not just in the run game and creating holes for Jamal Haynes, but also in pass pro. I believe in terms of sacks, Haynes King has only been sacked one time this entire season. And quarterbacks as a whole, so that includes Philo and the other one, I cannot remember his name, Zach Pyron, I think it is.
Zach Pyron, yeah, Pyron.
I believe Georgia Tech has only given up like 6 or 7 sacks the entire season. That is crazy. That's how good of a unit they are. So NC State's defensive front and their linebackers, believe me when I tell you, they have their hands full. We've talked a lot about in the Clemson games and also the Tennessee game that the importance of the linebacker play for NC State, that would make or break the defense. This is another game just like that. The linebacker play for NC State, the linebacker play, and I'll extend that to defensive line as well. If you can't win at the line of scrimmage, I don't know how NC State's going to win this game. In fact, I don't know how they keep it close. I think Georgia Tech can absolutely blow us out with how effective they are on the ground. Like, this is a dangerous situation if you're an NC State defense. You've had multiple weeks to prepare, and for some reason, we always look good coming out of a bye. This running attack for Georgia Tech is so elite, it's shocking that more people don't know about it.
Yeah, and let me get one thing straight. When I said they're not perfect in pass pro, I mean that because Haynes King is Mr. Too Slippery back there. You think you got him, and then next thing you know, he pops out like a former. He's a former Aggie. He pops out there like another former Aggie, Johnny Manziel, where you're just like,
yes,
where did this kid go? And again, I cannot sing this offensive line's praises enough because they are a physical group. They're not terrible at pass pro. They're just not perfect. They are good at it, but in the run game, I'll tell you something. Watching their film brings it's not something I enjoy as a former defensive lineman. It's one of those things that makes me sit back and say, being retired ain't so bad. It ain't so bad on this side of things. I'm all right talking about ball instead of having to worry about splitting those double teams.
And then last thing, if you thought Georgia Tech didn't already have enough weapons, I haven't even touched on their wide receivers. Malik Rutherford and Eric Singleton Jr., when I play with Georgia Tech on College Football 25, I make people quit with how good these guys are. When they get into open space, forget about it. Essentially, think of both of them like KC, but their offensive coordinator knows how to use them. That's how good they are. When they get into open space, they are weapons of mass destruction. Georgia Tech also, they use a lot of motion, whether that's jet sweeps or RPO or quarterback design runs. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's a lot of things to test your eye discipline. That poses a lot of problems for this NC State defense. So believe us when we tell you, Georgia Tech's offense does not get enough praise for how dangerous they truly are. Now switching gears, coming up next, we're going to get into the Georgia Tech defense. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second Wednesday sponsor is Skylight Frames. It's getting into the holiday season, and maybe gift giving isn't your love language. You overthink it and wind up with something disappointing, or sometimes maybe even nothing at all. Are you buying for someone who has everything or just seems unpleasable? Are you tired of wasting money on useless clutter that no one really needs? Well, we have the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is a digital touchscreen photo frame your whole family will love. You can upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in just seconds. It's extremely easy to use. Setup takes less than just 60 seconds, and there's seamless sharing. You can invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or via email, and you can add photos straight from your phone from anywhere. It only takes a tap on your phone to send new photos to a frame across the country. It's the fastest, easiest way to keep your loved ones in the loop. The touchscreen is a game changer. You can swipe through photos, tap to see new photos sent, and even tap a heart button to say thank you to the sender. There's 2 different sizes to choose from, the original 10-inch or the larger 15-inch gallery frame. They look perfect in any room, and they can stand on their own, or you can easily mount them to a wall. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, you can get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/college. That's Skylight, SKYLIGHTFRAME, skylightframe.com/college, COLLEGE, college. Get $20 off your first purchase now at skylightframe.com/college. Our third Wednesday sponsor is FanDuel. Tackle NFL action all season long on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on NFL all in just one singular place. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the very same page that you place all of your bets. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to join today. And again, you'll get started with that $150 in bonus bets if that first pesky $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com in order to join today. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Switching gears and getting into the Georgia Tech defense, we've talked a lot about speed and physicality already in this episode. That also explains the Yellow Jacket defense. This is a very underrated defense, in my opinion. When you're looking in terms of their ACC ranks, pass defense, they're 7th in the ACC. They give up an average of 226 yards through the air. Run defense, good for 4th in the ACC, just 108 rushing yards per game. I've already talked about holding the #1 offense in the country in Miami to just 23 points. That would reinforce that you're doing a lot of things well. However, the only weird thing that I will point out about this Georgia Tech defense, turnover margin for the entire season, they're just +1. They've actually only forced 7 total turnovers all season. 2 of those are interceptions. They've only picked off 2 passes all season long. So I think when you're getting into the game plan for NC State, you're going to want to pass the ball early, often, and virtually always. I want to see CJ Bailey spin the rock, scheme it that way so that you're getting your playmakers into space, because I don't think you're going to be able to beat Georgia Tech on the ground.
Georgia Tech has a defensive line that is very much so built to stop the run.
Yeah.
They have guys all over the place, specifically Sylvain, a young man. He's a wonderful young man. I talked to him at ACC Media Days a couple years ago. He has a fantastic mind for the game, even though he started super late. And he's a guy that the stats don't jump off the page. Only 2.5 sacks for this guy who, again, the stats do not tell the whole story. They do not tell you who he is as a player. But what you do see if you turn on the film is he is fantastic. And when I say fantastic, I mean fantastic at setting an edge, fantastic at holding a gap. And the crazy part is it's not just him. There are multiple guys on this team that very much so fall into that same kind of deal in terms of, again, you will not see stats that jump off the board. I do not know how to pronounce Sylvain's last name, by the way. It starts with a Y. Y'all can go for it. I will not.
I'll take a stab.
I'll take
a stab. I think it's Yonduin.
Listen, I have heard it in person before, and I still am like, that's an interesting name. But in all seriousness, they have a team that's very much so built on the idea of low risk, low reward. Like they have a defense that's built in that same way. So your job in beating this team, take care of the ball, get in where you fit in. They're not a team that, hey, you're going to bomb them over the top all night long. Their pass rush is not the best, but they make it difficult for teams to consistently run the ball, stay ahead of sticks and all that. They like to get you in end-long situations. Then their defensive linemen, while they're not the best pass rushers in the league, they have a lot of length up front. They have a lot of length, and those guys bat a lot of balls. So I'm thinking that this defense, again, the key to beating them To me, throw the ball early and often. Don't throw to set up the run. Don't do the opposite.
This is another instance for me because I play with them so much on College Football 25. Two defensive players that stick out to me on the game are also two defensive players that stick out to me in real life. You talked about Sylvain. I think it's Yonduin on the edge. I want to talk about the other edge, Romello Height. He's a dog. And you won't exactly get that from his stats, but he had the game-winning strip sack of Cam Ward against Miami. He comes up in big-time moments and make big-time plays. And so this is the type of player he could easily game wreck this entire situation for NC State. If you can't successfully protect CJ Bailey in the pocket, it'll be a guy like Romello Height that makes the difference in this ball game. The other guy I have my eye on is their leading tackler, nonetheless. That is linebacker Kyle Eford. He is a physical specimen. He can cover the field any way you need him to. Pass coverage, in the run, you name it, he can get it done. So for me, those are the bigger names for the Georgia Tech defense. But yeah, like I was talking about before, it's really not like a star-studded group by any means, but they are a very cohesive unit that plays solid team defense. And Kenton, last couple of questions to kind of wrap this up here in the end. So if you are NC State's offense, and you know this to be true about Georgia Tech's defense, they're solid through the air, really solid on the ground, and have a couple playmakers that can change this game, what should be the offensive attack for the Wolfpack?
I think they're really good at stopping the run, and I think they're solid through the air when they get you in predictable situations. They're a pliable team when you are staying ahead of the sticks. But how do you stay ahead of the sticks? I think you throw the ball on first down. You do not need to run it just for running's sake. I think the world of CJ Bailey. He's growing up in front of our eyes. He's getting better game by game by game. And I'll tell you something. A lot of people may not mean a lot to them. Grace and I talked about this off air. And I said it a lot. I have a feeling that a CJ Bailey disaster class is coming against Duke. Was that a disaster class to you?
No, but the whole
I don't
game
think it was a great performance. I don't think it was a great performance. No, not from the whole team. I'm talking about from CJ alone.
Oh.
Was it a disaster class from him?
No, but it wasn't exactly his fault either.
It wasn't a banner game. It was not a banner game. But Duke was doing an excellent job of disguising the defense.
Yeah.
They did what a Manny Diaz defense does. And they did it at a high clip. And yet he protected the ball overwhelmingly. You know, he did a great job of it. If you look at the plays in which there was a turnover, you know, both of those obvious, very, very obvious penalties were missed on both of them. Be it a guy tackling Justin Jolie, or I can't remember what the penalty was on the other one, but either way you cut or slice it, I think that CJ Bailey played a decent game in that one. Playing a decent game against a very good defense as a true freshman. Caleb Williams, as a freshman at Oklahoma, they played a team that was very inferior to Oklahoma. And that defense, who did not do as much in disguise, I can't remember what defense it was, took them boys to the woodshed offensively, pick after pick after pick. So CJ Bailey is showing me a level of maturity. And if people talk about him holding the ball too long, he is finding it in ways that are important. Georgia Tech is not as good at that. They've got to outman you man for man. And the thing that they do well, again, they're physical as hell. They stop the run well. And that's what made Miami's team great that most people didn't realize. Yes, Cam Ward on third down was nasty. Absolutely. Yes, they did average some of the longest third downs. But you want to know what was also true about Miami? They did not have as many third downs as other teams. You want to know why? 450 pounds of a running back in two guys, Martinez and Fletcher. Them is some big fellas now. That's a load. And so they do a good job of stopping the run and winning in predictable situations. If I'm NC State, I want to keep them off balance. I want to keep you on your toes. I want to do a lot of different things that kind of make it difficult on you to figure out where they're going, what are they doing here, by way of saying, we'll slip in a run here and there on first down to confuse you. Or, you know, we may run the ball. If we find ourselves having a lot of success running, sure, we may lean into that. But do not end up predictable in this game, or we will get cooked. And I mean filleted in this game.
If you're looking for a comparable performance that you hopefully get out of CJ Bailey in this game, I think you walk it back a couple of weeks and look at how he did against Cal on the road. He threw 36 times, completed 25 of those passes, 306 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the type of performance it's going to take to give yourself a shot to beat Georgia Tech. I'd anticipate that CJ's going to throw a lot in this game because if you don't, it would be malpractice. I will go ahead and lay that out for you right now. Our running game is nowhere near good enough to beat Georgia Tech on the ground. Not this week, hasn't been all year. It simply is not going to cut it. So what does that mean? You have to attack through the air. And I mean have to. It is non-negotiable. I would expect CJ Bailey to throw the ball somewhere between like 40 and 45 times in this game. I think anything short of that, that'd be a mistake. You're going to have to air this thing. So it's really no secret the Wolfpack are going to have to attack through the air successfully in order to, one, stay ahead of the chains, move the ball down the field, and subsequently score some points. That'll do it for us here on Wednesday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box. Tell us your thoughts on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets up to this point of the season. Any other names that you have your eye on that we didn't already mention. Tell us what you think about one-armed Haynes King potentially continuing to rise to the occasion. Anything else you have on your mind, drop that in the comment box as well. Mash that subscribe button. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Thursday, which is game day. So, of course, we're going to have Kenton's Keys Fan Friday turned into Fan Thursday, and then our final thoughts and predictions ahead of kickoff. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.